What's going on, guys? Welcome to the Ardhi Real Estate Podcast. I am your host for now, Ryan Fagan, broker owner of Ardhi Real Estate, a real estate brokerage here in South Jersey. We're going to have a fun, laid-back conversation. We're talking about delayed lifetime milestones. Basically, everyone's falling behind in life, and what can we do about it? What are the cultural impacts of it? And we're going to talk about Benzino getting trashed by Coi Leray online and what that means for parenting, generational wealth, and yeah. So what's going on, guys? How are you guys doing?
What's going on?
Hey.
What's up? This is our, is this Thanksgiving is coming up.
Thanksgiving is here.
Thursday.
Do you guys
the
have
best time of
plans?
the year.
You like Thanksgiving?
Thanksgiving's my favorite holiday.
Me
Low
too.
key.
Because there's no gifts. I hate gifts.
You hate gifts? I love gifts.
You like gifts? You like to get them or buy
love
them?
the food.
Both.
That's what I'm here for.
I don't want to receive a gift and I don't want to buy a gift.
Really?
Ryan, what? Why?
I'm a Grinch. I hate gifts.
Which means you secretly loved them at one time.
No, I don't.
Means he didn't get it.
There's weird politics with gifts. You know, did I get them enough? You know, and I know what I want, and I can pick for me better.
Have you had any therapy?
Is that terrible? Am I bad? You guys don't relate?
No.
I feel guilty.
I do relate because some gifts I'm like, this wasn't a good gift for me.
And then I had
But
to pretend.
Then I
Yeah.
gotta pretend.
I had to pretend I like it.
Yeah.
I mean, it depends on who's gifting you.
I don't want nobody to gift me.
Like, I don't necessarily have a lot of gifts that come in that I don't know about or I haven't hinted
Oh, that's
towards.
whack. You already know. You tell
No,
them
I'm
what
saying,
gifts.
like they'll ask a couple things that I want, and then I'll be like, "Oh, I will take this, that, and the third," and then they pick out of the things
So
that I
what do
tell
you do
them.
when they don't get you what's on your wish list and you don't like it?
Oh.
I mean, keep it going.
Do you? No, that's what Ryan said. Are you like pumping the fake like you like it or what?
Yeah. No, I'm gonna pump the fake, see if the receiver's still in there, take it back. You know,
I don't want to pretend like I'm not good at it either, and I know the read of my face to see if you like it. Oh man, it's just
Never
cringe.
do
I don't
right.
want to deal with that stress. It's stressful. Receiving a gift. Make sure you act the right way when you receive it, the proper amount of emotion. I don't have the right emotions.
So for the longest time, I kept getting the Henley. I think they're Henley shirts with the three buttons.
3 button.
And don't get me wrong,
Oh, sure.
they were decent, but I didn't like them. So after the fourth time of getting it on the Christmas, I was like, "Yo, nah, this ain't it. I don't really like these."
See?
And then it's like, "Well, why ain't you say nothing?" Well, I ain't think.
See the type of conversations that pop up because of gifts. That didn't have to happen.
You waited 4 Christmases to say you didn't
4
like that?
years.
Yeah, because it was just like, wow, okay, you get me this every year. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't wear that shirt like that.
Speaking
I
of
thought you would
seasonality-
notice. Like, you got me the gift. I don't
Do
wear
not
it that
put it
often.
on the gift giver to notice that you did
What
not
you
wear said shirt.
mean?
You should have told her them. I'm not gonna. I don't know who's getting it for you, but you should have told them from the rip. Hey, this is nice, but
You just
Not
said
too-
that you
not too
would play
heavy.
it off and fake it. Didn't you say that?
the second
Cassandra
time,
would do that real good.
I'm not that great with.
Oh, the
my-
back to backs, you gonna have to
Yeah,
shut
my
it down.
facial expression. I side with Ryan too because it's like you will see it in my face.
Yeah.
I'm not too much on the sentimental gifts. If you're gonna give me a gift, give me something I want.
Just give them money so they can
Or
buy it.
money, yeah, and let me pick.
See, I hate that.
I'm
But
a random gift buyer though.
But sentimental gifts, it might be more. I've gotten sentimental gifts and I like them, but it's like, okay.
If it hits, it hits
It
though.
yeah. But sometimes it's more sentimental for the other person than for me.
Oh,
But gifts are nice to give and receive,
okay.
minus the emotions.
Speaking of seasonality, it's cuffing season. How do you guys feel about that?
You know, it's cold out there.
How does a married man feel about cuffing season? Do you cuff more?
Things are just a little more cuffable, yes.
Yeah.
You know?
You watch
Tis
more
the
movies
season.
or something?
Yeah,
Like,
more movies. You're staying in the house. You're not going out like that. You know, you're not just popping out. You know what I mean? So more time together, I guess.
I think I'm going to avoid until after Christmas. Therefore, I don't need to deal with the gift situation.
See, but
That's
it's the best
crazy.
time of year.
But is that a thing that I've heard that's a thing that men do? Like you guys will like kind of not date during the
Nah.
gift
So,
giving
see,
season.
here's a
some men.
To
dilemma.
avoid.
Well, here's a stupid dilemma, right? What if you just started dealing with somebody and you don't know, like, are we doing gifts? What's the level of gift that we going to do?
Well, it depends on what you do during
Right.
this time of season. Because previous to being married, if I was, in a relationship, or I always wanted to be in a relationship during this time of season. 'Cause
Oh,
again, this is the time of season to do it. At least I feel that way anyway.
mm.
Because hot girl summer, city
Prom.
boys in the spring and all
Prom.
that.
City boys.
Yeah, you know how those spring breaks be. But
I don't
yeah,
know.
during the
I
winter,
don't know.
you kind of
You want a little booth thing.
So-
yeah,
So it is
lock
a
it
thing.
down.
So
Bringing the
Danny's,
new year
Danny's
together.
different. Ryan, is it a thing? Avoiding relationships during the holiday season.
I don't believe in holidays like that, so I don't know.
But you said you're gonna.
I just think it creates difficult interactions, like the gifts. Like, if I'm dealing with somebody, what do we get each other? Like, maybe we just started talking like a couple weeks. What do I do?
Get her something, and things that y'all talk about.
But you don't know each other that well.
Yeah, that's what I'm
like,
saying. You gotta kind of pay attention.
do
man.
I want to get how much is it going to cost?
That's another thing.
Like, what's my level of investment at this point?
You kind of.
And she going to get you a Henley. She ain't going to get you nothing. She ain't going to get you nothing good.
Yo, she get you the Henley, bro. Hang it up. You might as well. Let it go.
I'm about to be toxic. I'm trying not to be toxic.
Wow.
'Cause
I'm
I'm
talking
gonna
about
say,
for Ryan.
y'all women are
if
not-
he's, me, if I get the Henley, I'm wearing in the house. You know what I mean?
The women are not good gift
Wearing
givers.
around the fire.
The women are not good gift givers.
We hype
I
y'all
think
up.
that's a lie.
That's
We hype y'all
crazy.
up because we have to. But
I don't know, Ryan.
I
I
ain't
got
really-
some. I got
you
some
had
gifts in my
3
day.
years. You had 3 years of Henleys talking about.
Yeah, but the
it.
Henleys was just one of the many gifts that I got. But
Oh,
the Henley
okay.
was a part of the gifts. Shout out to the Henley gift givers. But but at the same time, it was my fault for not saying it up front. Like, I don't wear that often. I don't want you to waste your money on it because I ain't gonna wear it like that. I should have said something, but I didn't. But then once I did, now the
but
gifts
she
even got
just
better.
like you're supposed to read her mind. She should read your mind about what you want, right? 'Cause-
Women are way better gift givers than men.
I can agree.
I don't agree.
Why don't you agree?
I'm a
Ryan?
good gift giver if I put effort into it. It's good.
What do you consider good gift?
But
giving?
but see, then we're not at that point, so I don't know if I could pull out all the gift giving stops for you.
Wow.
See, your gift level just goes through the roof.
I don't believe in
Yeah,
middle
your
in anything.
gift-o-meter is
I
just weird.
don't have a middle ground. Like, I'm either in it or I'm not.
See, but
I'm all it. We ain't getting a medium-sized TV. We got to get the extra big TV, the 75, 80 something,
Oh my
or we going to get a little one that's practical. I'm not doing the middle, like
so you're not gonna get the 65. You need the
with
70 or above.
cars, with anything I buy. I'm not buying the middle thing. I'm going to get the cheap thing or the expensive thing that you really want to have. So
I get it.
the
it.
middle sucks.
Got you.
Mm.
So anyway,
So you're not gonna get the 3-button Henley. You're gonna get a full button up.
I like a Henley.
Oh, okay.
I think they're very practical.
So you like the middle then? A little bit.
I just like
little-
that style. I mean, is a Henley cheaper? I don't know. Well, so let's talk about delayed lifetime milestones. Basically, I think everybody's falling behind. People are buying houses later. The median age of first-time home buyers, as we discussed a little bit last week, went all the way up to 33 years old. And I think a lot of that has to do with the economy. According to the Federal Reserve, there's $1.5 trillion in student loan debt. And I'm wondering, what do you guys think about that? Do you think this is mostly due to the economy, or do you think that there's some people just are waiting longer on purpose?
I think it's kind of like a domino effect. right? Because it's like, yes, people are getting married later, but I feel like life, well, this is what we're talking about. Life is pushing you back to get married later. You're getting out of school. You have this tremendous amount of student loan debt. You're not getting paid enough. So now you have high loan to debt ratio. You don't have a down payment. You're scrapping to get by in your 20s, and then you really start to feel a sense of comfortability when you hit those 30s in this economy currently. Getting married before then, I mean, you can make it happen, but getting married before then, it's kind of like, it's a domino effect. You get out of school, you have student loan debt, you're not making enough money, and then you have this debt, you don't have money for a down payment, then it goes into, it's just a full circle domino effect. Or
It's cuffing season, right? And so why are we having such difficulty coming together and buying homes together? Because I think that's part of the solution, right? And there's some stats here that, people are cohabitating, but they're not willing to put their finances together necessarily to buy a house, because the next segment we're going to get to is marriage, and maybe the marriage laws makes that a little bit difficult. But do you think relationships are making it more difficult?
It depends on how you look at it, right? So when you think about buying a house, it's a little bit more concrete. As far as in terms of having a relationship, when you buy a house together, you're both names on the mortgage. You think of a house as like, okay, this is solidified for a long period of time. Whereas though, if you jump on to a lease and y'all break up or whatever the case may be, that's like a 1 year type of commitment, or however many months that you sign up for. So that's one side of it. The other side of it, I think, as far as like why aren't first-time home buyers buying homes earlier rather than in their 30s, say in their 20s, I think it's the information also isn't readily available. So you think about it, right? Like if you want to go and rent a 2-bedroom, the first thing you're going to see is how much the rent is every month. Well, if you go to buy a home, the first thing you're going to see is like, what's the total cost of purchasing this home, or should I say the retail value and purchasing a home. So you see $350,000 and you don't know what that breaks down to, and you also don't necessarily always go through the steps right up front to get get approved and know what you can afford and what the mortgage is going to be. So it's easier to just go rent because you can calculate that into your bills and everything like that right away, rather than having to put the time in to do the rest of the stuff, because it doesn't feel like it's attainable.
That is a good point, because I always tried to tell, if I give a sales price, I like to provide what that looks like in a monthly payment, because what the heck does a sales price mean? Like $300,000, what does that even mean to me every day? My other thing is there is a lot of risk of buying a house with somebody. But there are ways to mitigate it. So there's different ways to take title. You can do joint tenancy, which I want to recommend if you're like jointly buying with someone. And you can do tenants in common, which allows you to divide the house by a percentage. Because if you use joint tenancy, it's kind of like you're married. You both own 100% of the property. There's a whole bunch of legal ramifications to that. And we'll have a title person on here at some point to kind of go in the nitty gritty of it. But if you are considering, I would definitely say look into using tenants in common, because you can do percentages. And like if someone, God forbid, passed away or anything like that, it kind of changes who the equity of the property goes to and all that kind of stuff. Also, see, we skip into the marriage thing, because I think prenumps can fix all this stuff about people being afraid of buy. I think it can fix some of the fear of buying a house with a spouse.
I mean, there's pros and cons to waiting to purchase a house with a spouse, or even with just your boyfriend or girlfriend.
Yikes.
But for me personally, I'm not purchasing a home with my boyfriend. Why? Yeah. I feel like, and there's pros and cons to that as well, but to accumulate and amass that amount of debt with someone who is not, we're not committed in that sense.
Oh, God.
It's like, we're just dating or whatever. Immediately, no. So for me, it's like we'd have to be married for me to take on a debt of 300, 400, 500K with anybody.
What if, though, you had a contract about the house? Because I agree with you. Buying just nakedly, not physically naked, but just nakedly buying the a property with any other human being could be a problem, right? Because you have different interests, and maybe they get broke and they want to sell, blah blah blah.
You ain't got no job.
You're right.
You ain't got shit to do.
What if you had some sort of contract? I think that's a good solution, actually, guys. If you're going to consider this, you probably need an attorney. Don't just use ChatGPT. They might be able to help you, though. Create some sort of outline as far as how you guys can liquidate the property, who's responsible for paying, and all that kind of stuff, and have different scenarios. What do you guys think about that?
I mean,
I just made that up on the fly, by the way.
It sounds good, but a contract, you barely dating each other to really know the ins and outs. So trying to bring a contract in to an early relationship, unless you're dating for a long time and just didn't get married or whatever, but. People aren't, I don't know. Like,
but
wouldn't you start
be
throwing in prenup and contract and this and the third, people start getting defensive and feeling like, oh, but you don't love me and you this, that, and the third. Like, as soon as you start throwing that in there, it's crazy.
I think actually it's a good test, because if you give
What's a good test?
If you give her hey, we want to buy a house, but we need to have a contract about how we're going to deal with this house, and she goes, what about my feelings? And I just want to own it. I think you should be careful. Right? Because what's the alternative? Disaster. Because I think I talked to you guys about this. Look, we're at a 13-year low for home sales by volume. And I was telling you guys earlier, I'm like, the people still selling their houses and making real estate moves? People getting divorced.
True.
I've had a client buy a house. And actually, the day before, I feel bad about this, the day before closing, he was like, I'm not doing it. It was like 11 p.m. Just cancel everything. And I oh, man, my stomach dropped, first of all. And then I was like, he must have just had a fight with his girl, but I think they was drinking or something. I don't know. I'm going to just act like I didn't see this. And then I wake up in the morning, and he was like, my bad, bro. Well, I was just tripping.
It's very
And
emotional.
he bought the house the following year. Bro, I need you to sell this house. We're breaking up.
But that's the problem, right?
Wait, they were married or?
They were married.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
This is a
I feel like that's the problem, right? Like you attribute the house, the car, the dog, this, that, and the third to the relationship, and the relationship drives the financial decisions that you're making, which a lot of couples aren't in a position to understand their finances and do the things necessary to protect themselves. So that's why, you consistently have those type of issues, because they're not thinking of the financial impact and of, what can happen if things do go wrong. They're thinking in the moment because, man, you are grooving. This is the logical next step in our relationship. Let's do it. And then when things go left, it's like, oh, snap. Now we got to liquidate this asset and do this and do that.
And it'll mess you up because you'll lose money. Thank goodness for this particular client. They made money on the house because the value of the property goes up. But in 1 year, usually you don't have equity. You're going to lose money. It destroys people. And trust me, I have a bunch of scenarios. Shoot, like 20% of my clients is people getting divorced and stuff like that. If I look over probably not that much. I'm being kind of whatever. But I mean, it's a lot. And when I see, I've seen guys give the girl the whole check when they didn't contribute to buy the house. I've seen all kinds of nasty stuff. But how many times have we heard, especially black people, we talk about this, is we be like, oh, well, marriage is a business and all this stuff, right? But then we're not moving like it's a business. We don't got a contract. We don't have nothing. It sounds good, like, oh, do it, but I think we need to have a more practical, strategic approach to this where both sides protect themselves, so even if she's not going to work or whatever, you can have some kind of agreement, like you're going to support this way, so then there's certain percentage or whatever with the house. And if if the man or woman give a lot of pushback, if you can't come up to an agreement about how you're going to purchase this home, and if things go wrong, should you be dealing with that person?
Ryan, certain couples can't come up with an agreement on how much they should be spending on Amazon.
Why they together?
let alone
Factual.
how much they should be spending or contributing to a house and this and that. Some women say that, and men, it goes both sides of the table. Some men and women say, oh, I'm okay with 50-50 until 50-50 happens. And then some want a 80-20, or if I take care of all the major bills, you'll take care of some of this. Like when you really start getting into the nitty gritty, there's no common, process to really get the financial house in order. And that's why a lot of marriages actually fold early on, is because that's when you really start having to come together with finances. And a lot of people can't see eye to eye. Like one person might have, their financial house set up a certain way and it looks really good. Their credit score is great, this and the third, but they amassed a whole lot of debt. The other person might not have as much debt at all. Their credit score might not be the best right now, but their liquid cash that they could spend every single check is more. Now this person has to put more towards the other person's bills. Like it's mad different things that go on. Like it's a lot of it's a lot of situations that have so many dynamics that can ruffle feathers within a relationship, and people don't take the necessary steps previous to getting married to go through the finances with a fine-tooth comb to really realize what that other person is bringing to the table. Because we all have not we all, but a lot of people have the just don't have the mental capacity or forefront to deal with that situation without getting defensive. And we all assume sometimes, oh, well, we've been going together for 4 or 5, 6, 7 years, whatever case may be. Everything's been fine. We've been going on these trips. We've been doing this. We've been doing that. Next thing you know, you ain't realize that all those trips was on credit cards. And then you got to pay them back.
You know what I like about this conversation? And because coming into this conversation, I really attributed a lot of this stuff to the economy. But see how we're talking about kind of maybe some of the strategic or decisions that we're making is actually causing a lot of this friction.
Oh,
that's interesting.
Choice.
So maybe if we could get ourselves together, including myself,
Haram!
maybe we could be more successful.
I agree. Honestly, and even being successful in a breakup, because everything's all good until you break up, right? And so a lot of people dodge when they're getting married. There's not enough prenups, and not that I'm saying I'm for or against prenups. There's a stigma. We're not gonna go down.
Are you for Cassandra? Are you for a prenup?
It depends.
Okay.
What's it depend on?
It depends on a couple factors, but I do feel like there's a need for you to protect yourself, because like I said, like everything's good until you break up, and then you kind of really see, like, yeah, you've been rocking out with this person for years or whatever, and you love them and it's good and it's great, and then you break up, and then you really start seeing like, hold on, you didn't help me build this, you didn't help me do this, you didn't contribute to this. Why is it fair that I have to give you 50? You know what I'm saying? Like, I have to give you 50% of everything. Or why do I have to give you the house that I whatever the case may be. So I feel like depending on your status.
So if you have more than them, you want a prenup. But if you have less, do you not?
I feel like an agreement is needed. I don't want to say like more or less, whoever has more or less. I feel like an agreement should be in place in the event that we break up, because it's very possible that we'll break up. And, it gets messier when there's no direction. So if the prenup was in place, we'd know exactly, bam, 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 what's going here. Would
you be offended if someone has the prenup conversation in this imaginary world where you may have cuffing season with an amazing young man and y'all are doing well, and then y'all talk about getting married? Would you be offended to have that conversation?
No. I think the conversations are necessary.
I think it's a green flag, right? Because if you guys can work that out, you guys should be able to work out a lot of stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
Exactly.
Danny's like, this sounds good for y'all single people, but that's not how this happens in real life.
I agree.
But it don't work like that.
No, not that it doesn't work like that. I think that it should work like that.
Wait,
Right.
did you?
Oh God.
Are you?
We talked about the prenup. I was cool with a prenup.
Okay.
Yeah, I was cool. Fortunately, her and I, or my wife and I, we kind of make similar money. So that's not really an issue. Our assets are very similar. So as far as like we didn't do a prenup or whatever case may be. But not because we didn't want to, or not because like we were against it, like on a feelings aspect. We just ended up it just slipped our head slipped our mind when time came. But in the same breath, again, I going back to a few things that I said in weeks previous, is I kind of came into the situation kind of knowing what it is. If we ended up splitting, it's going to be a tough road on the financial aspect of it. I can only imagine where the emotions and things. She's a lawyer, so I can only imagine.
Oh, she gonna clean your clock, right, bro.
She gonna try to clean me up. But hopefully we won't go down that route and things are civil. If that was to ever happen. But knowing the reality of things, that it doesn't typically work that way, because like you said, you never really see a person in that light until a breakup or whatever like that happens. And it's like, okay, well, where the hell did this come from?
Yeah.
So you can only control what you can control, right? So I can only control myself. If things were to happen and you start, for whatever reason, she starts getting out of hand, whatever, like my goal would be, if we had kids, let me give, whatever I need to give you to take care of the kids. If I can't take the kids, typically that goes with the wife, if you do have them. So let me give you the house. Go ahead and stay there, do your thing. I'm a get myself together. But that's just my personal outlook on it. It's like, keep
depending on the situation. Yeah.
Ryan, are you giving her a prenup?
Oh yeah. But just because I think the marriage laws are not updated to modern times to appropriately.
Ryan getting married in Las Vegas.
Hell no. No, I want a big wedding. I actually think a wedding is an important symbolic gesture.
Really?
Because you're uniting your families in front of both families, and that means something.
You're gonna sign a prenup in front of both families?
Yeah. Because the laws are broken.
Do it at the same time.
The reason for the prenup, in my opinion, is that the marriage laws are from the dang on 1600s and are outdated. So you're just fixing the de facto case law. So now that you have an agreement that works for both of you. A prenup doesn't mean that you don't get anything if you get divorced. Like, you can put anything in a prenup that you want. So even you can make it whatever. Like, if you have 5 houses, you get 2, you get 3, and then when you buy a new property, we're gonna list where the equity breaks down to that. There's no default prenup, so you can come up to an agreement that works for both people and is fair. So I'm not saying you don't get anything, screw you. I don't think that's right, but I think that conversation needs to be had. So yeah. But I believe in marriage, and I don't think it invalidates the marriage. I solely think that you are correcting bad laws on the books.
That's funny that you bring that up, because I feel like that might be a leading cause to all these common law marriages going on, even though it's not a thing anymore since 2005. But
people are avoiding it for that reason.
Yeah, people are avoiding the marriage and spending more money on baby showers or whatever else.
Yeah, they're pretend being married, and then you're missing out on some of the benefits. But I also do think on a non-quantifiable aspect, the symbolism of being married and proclaiming that you guys are a unit together means something still.
Right, for sure.
And I think we've thrown that away, and I think that's part of why we're having trouble progressing. And I think that leads, first of all, Cassandra, I'm very sorry. So here's some inside baseball about the podcast so far. I'm a freestyler. Cassandra likes to have organization and an outline, which does improve the podcast. And if you guys notice, it's been getting better, mostly because she's been holding us accountable to have some organization. But if you're following the outline, I have deviated completely. But aren't we having fun?
We are.
See?
We are. But since we're talking about weddings, marriage and weddings, let's talk about the financial barriers of a wedding, how that impacts home ownership.
I know, because I want to have like a big wedding that's like
Well,
lit.
how much do you plan on dropping on
But
said big wedding?
My investor brain is having trouble with this part because
Okay.
it's like, if I spent, which the average is $30,000.
Yes.
You said you spent.
50.
Oof.
How do I validate that? Okay, but here's the problem. Here's my problem. I'm Mr. Traditional. I know. Her parents are supposed to pay.
Ooh. But we are in new times. So a lot of
Yeah.
people now, yes, that is tradition. And still is for some cultures. For the American culture, it seems like the couples themselves are
Yep.
mostly contributing to the cost of marriages.
Well, a lot of the
But-
parents don't even have the
And
money.
they're that's
My
true. And
point.
they're
We talk
going-
about generational wealth and all that stuff, and we're going to get to that in a little bit. The parents are messing up.
the parents are messing. Well,
Why don't they got no money to pass down? And why aren't like they're giving their daughter away and all that kind of stuff? And they should. What's up?
I'm sure they want to, but sometimes they don't
No,
have
they
the
don't.
financial means to do so.
You ain't got no
so
job,
it falls on
and you ain't got
the
shit to
children.
do.
Danny, who paid for the wedding? You.
I
pro-
did.
you-
We
you-
did. I don't want to say I did. We did.
Dang.
Okay. So was
Yeah.
that? So let me ask you this. So even with that, so a lot of couples, and I'm saying you guys, they're paying these high cost weddings, and these weddings are beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. But then it's like it's putting them into debt, or it's pushing
Right.
back. It's prolonging them getting a house. So do you feel like would you 50K? Would you drop that again on a wedding, or would you go a little? Would you take it down a few notches and then put that into the house? Like, do you feel like what was the learning curve for you there?
So the business side of me is like, damn, I spent a lot of money. But the other side of me, like the one thing I wanted a wedding, just like she wanted a wedding or whatever case may be. But what we did, instead of taking out any loans, obviously we didn't have a bunch of help from our parents. I mean, our parents put a couple dollars in too. But we just put a savings plan together. So we saved about $1,000 a piece per month for 2 years while
Oh,
we were
wow.
living
Nice.
in our apartment, and ran that up for 2 years. Was like very straightforward and running really lean on our bills and stuff like that. So that way, with everything that we wanted, we had the cash to pay for it, and that also got us discounts on some things to be able to pay cash up front, and that it made the experience great. My wedding was really freaking good, and at least in my opinion. We had a amazing time. A bunch of people was there. I think we had like 150 or 160, so that was a lot of people.
Do you recoup some of the money from that though?
We recouped a decent amount.
So it's not too bad if
we
your guess act
almost,
right.
We almost got half back.
Would you drop 50K in a wedding? Would you do it again in that capacity?
Yes.
Danny don't got no regrets. Just like the
Yeah.
college conversation, Danny's here for the experiences.
The experience
But
is
let me
big,
ask you
man.
this.
The experience
When
is
did
big.
so you guys got married? When did you move into your house? What was the time frame between those two?
Well, we got married in 2021. I bought my house in 2022.
Okay.
But again, really got to know what you're doing and having the information up front, because if it wasn't for the first time home buyers grant and the FHA loan and only having to put down 3.5, would ended up turning into just $1,900 to buy a house. Shit, I wouldn't have had a house, but I got with a realtor. She dropped the dimes on me like, hey, this is what you got to do. Boom, boom, boom. Set me up with my mortgage officer. Told him, my situation. Actually, my wife was trying to get approved first, which again, her credit was a little bit better at the time. She was like higher in the 700s, and I was only in like the mid 6s. But DTI smoked her because she went to law school, right? So she got a bunch of student loans out because of law school, and that kind of outweighed, what she made in income. So then I went ahead and applied. She got denied. I got approved for about like 225, 230. Realtor found us a crib, got us that first time home buyers grant for 10K, which originally they kind of presented it like, oh, this is only towards down payment, but it ended up being able to be used for down payment and closing costs. So then I only had to put out, like I said, roughly about $2,000, and
The
I got
crazy,
my first house.
the crazy thing about that story, it wouldn't happen today. So if you waited, you'd still be renting probably, or you would have had to
A
save more
lot of
money.
people that I know, yeah, I agree. A lot of people that I know who had, I've been to their wedding. It was beautiful. Are still living in apartments.
Right.
Yeah.
And the wedding was a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, and they're still in the situation where they're living in an apartment, but they dropped 30, 40, 50, 60 bands on a
You want to
wedding.
know something crazy?
What?
I wish I was still living in an apartment.
Oh, you regret getting the house?
I do now.
Most people want the house. Why do you regret getting the house?
So, because that rise in interest rates, again, I think we spoke about this previously, but buying a house is an investment. My house, I got it for $225 on a block where every house is over $400, some of them over $500.
Equity.
Yeah, equity there. I put money right into the house. Made it look good. Whole 9 yards. I have the biggest front and backyard on my block. So I got the right house and the right fit in the right neighborhood, right area.
I'm in suspense.
Yeah, so that's there. But what I will say is, right before we got our house, I moved over into medical device sales, got an upgrade in pay, whole 9 yards. If I stayed in the apartment that we were in just for, say, another 2 years or so without paying the money that I'm paying, because I'm paying my mortgage. So I pay out, that's on my check. I don't allow her to pay the mortgage or whatever case may be. I took that on. So if I took that $2,000 plus on the mortgage that I wouldn't have to be, really been paying if I was in the apartment, it would only been like $600 because the one bedroom that we had was only $1,050 or $1,100. If I took that $2,000, that's about a little more than $2,000. If I took that, that's about $1,500 every single month for a year, 2 years, whatever, that I could be putting towards whatever debt or whatever the case may be. And then by the time that we really did want to go buy a house, we probably got approved for a little bit more, and I would have got a little bit more house that I wanted without having to take on the house that I have, which was more so like a rehab.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know about that in this market though, because
True.
your house now is three, so you would have saved just to buy something and it would have cost more.
Yeah.
That's my argument to people. That's why the delayed lifestyle.
But my consumer debt would have been lower, which is huge when it comes to like month to month stuff. You know what I mean? So like if my consumer
not at 7% interest rate.
No, I'm talking about like, credit cards, things of that nature.
Oh.
If that stuff was wiped out, which I could have done that.
Oh, I
if
see.
that stuff was wiped out by the time I wanted to go and buy a house, then my monthly payments would be so much lower. So it's a lot less stress when you don't have a bunch of different bills sitting around, like credit cards, little loans that you took out here and there, whatever.
That's why, guys, this is good advice here. You see this conversation and the numbers. This needs to be put on a spreadsheet. This needs to be, you need to talk to your realtor. You need to talk to your loan officer. And you need to have a real consultation and sit down and really, really talk about real life stuff so that you can make the best decision possible. And the only way to make a smart financial decision, especially with housing, is to have this real conversation and figure out all the nuances and your strategy all the way down the line. Because if you just call any realtor talking about, I want to buy a house, and you don't have a relationship, they're just going to sell you a house. It's important. Let's sit down, whether it's online or whatever in person, and really have this whole conversation. And if your professionals aren't having this conversation, find the people that are willing to have this conversation with you, because it is critically important to accomplish whatever your life goals are, right? Because the reality is, and Danny talks about this a lot, is it is sales. So, I mean, if you just come and say, hey, I want to buy a house, they're going to sell you a house.
Yep.
So it's important to lay everything out. I think, and this is my sales tactic or strategy, is to be more of a counselor, and I enjoy doing that. So, even if it's a year, 2 years out, have the conversation so that you're equipped with the proper information to be able to make the best decision.
Oh, for sure. And that, to speak on that with the realtor that I got, originally we were looking at houses before I got pre-approved. So this was her kind of just like rubbing her back, like, come on, let's I want you to be my customer. We were looking at houses that we couldn't afford. Then next thing you know, we went from looking at houses that we couldn't afford to thinking about settling for like a townhome in the mindset of like, okay, well, we'll stay in here for a couple years and then just start renting it out. And then I was like, hell no. Like, I need something that's going to have some equity or something like that down the line. And she, like, once I had that conversation with her, she started getting into her bag of like coaching and teaching and counseling. Like, okay,
Right.
this is how you get equity. This is what you need to do. Boom, boom, boom. You know what? Let me make a few calls. Cause that, it almost came to a point where we seen enough townhomes and I was just like, bro, we staying in this apartment. Like, I don't care what we talking about. I'm not buying a townhome. Then she felt that, like, as a salesperson, she felt that, you know, coming her way. And she was like, you know what? Let me make a couple calls. And she ended up finding our deal off market from a realtor that she just
Nice.
knew. And kind of, we ain't had to, at the time, people were just getting outbidded and all that kind of good stuff. She talked to the realtor that she knew. She owned the home. We came, we met her. And it was just like, all right, if you give me $225 today, no, nothing. Let's do it. Boom. And I was like, you sure? As soon as I walked in the house, I seen the house, seen what we could do to it. Looked around the neighborhood, seen the neighborhood, knew it was, I was in Williamstown. I'm like, oh, I'm great. $225, you sure? Okay, let's do it.
See what happens when you keep it real with your agent. If you don't trust them to keep it real with them, you shouldn't be working with them. Segue.
Yeah.
Well, wait, before we segue,
Oh, yeah.
Ryan, I'm
Oh.
curious. So, like, we got Danny's perspective in regards to getting a home with a partner and a spouse.
Mm.
You, as a single man,
Yes.
what's that? How does that work with you? Do you suggest waiting for your partner to get a house? Do you suggest going into home ownership by yourself? And now a lot of women, or there's a lot of debate as to whether women should wait for their husband to get their first house, or if they should just go
Is
for
she
it.
going on the deed?
She's going on what?
Oh, I
Is she
hate that
going on the deed?
conversation.
And
As an agent, that's that's
all right. So Ryan,
working with couples is crazy. But what's my personal perspective? I'm very against it because I can see how it will mess you up. But the reality is, it's so much tougher now. If you can't buy on your own, buying with someone is your next best option. And I'd take the risk with that, but I want to mitigate that risk by having a contract or some kind of agreement. We need a written agreement. I've learned, have a written agreement and have all the contingencies out there. This way, nobody, because what happens is now they're just going to use the legal system as a weapon against you, and they're going to take it to the furthest extent that they can. If you have a contract, it can help protect against that kind of stuff.
So you the single guy that is okay with your.
She's not going on. No,
Well, not single. You the guy in a relationship that's okay with the girl co-signing for you.
No cosign.
You just said that.
No.
Said
No.
we gotta buy it together. We gotta buy it together.
If that's your only option,
Okay.
yeah.
So you at the table, getting things together. You call her. You're like, yo, I need you to sign this.
I've never relied on anybody to do anything.
Oh, all right.
I'm just saying the reality of the market today.
Yeah.
If you can't do it alone, then do it with somebody.
Agreed.
It's probably better to just do an investment property with like a business partner or something like that than complicating it with relationship. But I mean, if y'all are out here trying to make it work, the contract will protect you. They could be mad as they want to, but it might mess you up a little bit. But if you have a good contract, it's better than not having equity, not owning anything, and falling further and further behind in the economy.
That leads me to my next question for you. As a man, a single man, or a man that might be dating, or in a
Target out
relationship,
here is dangerous.
would you necessarily would you buy a single family home first or a multifamily?
Multifamily homes far superior.
If you're dating
Multifamily home
right away.
is better in every aspect financially.
Okay.
The problem is when you mix in personal interest and stuff like that, that's where stuff gets messed up. I've talked about this a lot. People like the idea of buying a multifamily, and then they start seeing them, and they're like, ew, a lot of single women I notice do this, and because they read all the books and they in all these classes, but then when they go to look at it, they can't envision themselves living there, and I'm like, ew, this is what you got to deal with if you're trying to make these financial inroads for later. I mean, it's a sacrifice. This isn't a luxury purchase.
Right.
This is a practical purchase that's financially the best decision, but personally maybe for your lifestyle, obviously you can't find the best of both of those things. Either, you're going to get the house that you want, or you're going to get the best financial option. You can't get both.
What's confusing is like a lot of people would be so quick to be able to live in an apartment complex, but won't live in a multifamily. I don't know.
It's a romantic attitude towards the first house, and we need to kill that and drown it in the bathtub because it's setting people behind.
Right.
Yeah.
Agreed.
All right. So I want to know: are parents supposed to pass their wealth down to their kids, or can they call upon their kids to help them? And I was watching DJ Academic's live stream, and he was talking about Benzino, who was a rapper, and he also owned the Source magazine, and his daughter is Coi Leray, and she's a pretty popular rapper out today, and she's out here doing whatever, but she's been trashing him online, saying he's a clout chaser. She even said, and this is what's triggered me, and I have a strong opinion about this, but I'll let you guys go first, that he asked her for money, and then he was on a Instagram Live, which, why are you 50-something years old looking in your phone, talking about your daughter online, and that's kind of weird. But he was like, heck yeah, I asked her for money. I brought her in this world. And she, like, with that entitled attitude towards the fact that she should give him money because he's down bad. And
But why you
what do you
down
guys think
bad?
about that?
You like 60.
And then he was like, yeah, she always had the mink coats when they was kids, and she don't remember that. I'm like,
That was your choice. You bought them. What are you talking about?
so what do you guys, as far as a general concept?
She was fine. She was fine with the Dora Explorer shoes.
Right.
No,
Kids
you-
don't care
you
about
bought
that.
You know what I mean? You bought the Louis.
But my point is like, kind of like the woman's parents, Are-
Mhm.
the bride's parents are supposed to pay for the wedding.
Mhm.
We not moving right, so now he can't pay for her wedding. He needs to lean on his own daughter to pay for whatever bills he got. Like, what's going on here? And I think this is cultural choices that we're making that we're out of order.
Is it culture or is it life? I feel like
It's black people.
black people. No, that's not necessarily.
I'm
true.
sorry. I'm a critic of the culture, and if people don't know, I'm half black. I identify as black because people be like, "Who's this Indian guy talking about black people?"
Indian guy.
But
Honestly, I feel like yes, traditionally, your parents are supposed to pass down generational wealth to you. Like that's what they're supposed to do. However, due to life choices, and just not whatever the case may be, some parents just don't have it. It's not that they don't want to pass down wealth to their children.
he made
They don't
millions of
have it.
dollars,
Yeah, and he squandered it clearly, and now he needs
and
help.
now his daughter has to pay for his mistakes.
No.
It's not that she has to pay for it, but it's like, listen,
Literally
I'm your-
pay for it.
I'm your parent. I don't know. Honestly, I feel like, yes, my parents are supposed to pass down wealth, but if they didn't make the decision to, be financially inept and do so, and they come to me and now they're in their older age and they are not doing well, I do feel like it does fall on the child.
This
I
kind of
think
this kind of makes me think about because I'll forget. This makes me think about like when the parents be putting the light bill in the kid's name and messing up their credit and buying TVs and getting a credit card for the kid and then messing up their credit. I think this is a very similar thing, and I'm sorry, this kind of in our community I see this a lot because I see people whose credit is messed up. They're doing the kids are doing the right thing. They're saving. They watch Earn Your Leisure. They believe in generational wealth, all this stuff, which is being promoted. And then they find out, dang, my credit's messed up because I got this PICO or PSE&G bill that my parents put in my name when I was 18 and now they're 24 and it's still there. That's messed up. Like that, I think that's backwards.
It is, but I also feel like if they knew better, they do better. Why? If like honestly, you can't tell me that they're picking up these same financial patterns that their parents probably were doing, and then they just keep picking it up. But once they figure out, like, I feel like that's the problem. Like they're not educated. They're not financially.
Are they not
literate.
educated?
They're just. I mean,
They didn't know they was gonna
mean-
mess their kids' credit up when they didn't pay the bill.
It's a poor person's mindset because poor people aren't necessarily taught the things to get ahead. So the ways to typically get ahead when you have a poor mindset is to do the things that you're talking about because they're thinking about the right now and not the future.
Yeah.
So a lot of parents end up falling off later down the line or being in a very stressful situation or have blown a shit ton of money along the way because they never had the right mindset or information to put them along the right track to retire. Or I mean, you gotta think about it. How many people you know, if you ask their parents, they don't even have life insurance. They can't pay for a funeral. They can't, like, that's the culture. That's what's going on in the culture. Like, now it's a little bit different because the information is readily available at your fingertips. So it's almost no excuse for you not to educate yourself and get you some self-help books or whatever. You can go on Chat GPT and tell them to write you a life plan for the next 10 years if you want to. But back, when our parents and even their parents were, doing their thing or starting their lives, they didn't have everything at their fingertips. Shit, they barely had internet, back then. So knowing the ways to success, I'm tired of hearing generational wealth within our community. Like, cancel generational wealth and just actually focus on trying to build some type of wealth.
Well, especially you taking the wealth from your own kids, so it don't even make sense. But I have to ask, how come in the 60s and 70s, and from the 40s to the 70s, didn't have this problem?
Because you worked at General Motors, and that's all you needed to do. You had a pension. You worked at General Motors. You worked 40 hours a week. You had that check. Houses were, $9,000 to $30,000 per house. So you had your house. You could take care of 4 or 5 kids, and you probably had life insurance through the company with a vested interest. And then now that's not the same. Anywhere you go,
Yeah, but I don't
it's
think
not the same.
But we didn't have this spend money culture, right? I see a lot of people on vacations.
Yeah. The spend money culture was there, but it wasn't.
How do you Turks and Caicos and then they ain't got no money saved?
So
What's happening?
It's like a backfire on my outlook on things, but a lot of people
for the vibes,
the vibes and the experiences, and just especially this generation, they want the experience more than they want, to save their money or whatever the case may be. Whereas though, I feel like our generation, we are in the middle of, like, we've seen our parents and having to grind and do all that kind of good stuff, but we also like the luxuries and like treating ourselves as well. But we kind of have that hustle mentality to get it done and then figure it out as we go, which also isn't the best best scenario. But back in the day, you didn't have that because the communities were different, right? Like, just think about it. Like, all right,
that's my beef.
Back in the day,
community was better,
right? Back in the day, your whole block knew who you were. If you ran down the street and Miss Sonia seen you and you were doing something wrong, you knew your mom was gonna know by the time you got home. Like, that's just what it was. Street lights come on, everybody's running into the house. Like, you're not doing the stuff that kids are doing now. Now, even back then, you go outside to play basketball and you outside all day long. Nowadays, kids are in their room, on the phones, like, everything is changing within the community. You don't even know who your damn neighbor is anymore. Community. You don't talk to your neighbor. You know what I mean? So, like, what's going on? So the most that you're going to be learning is going to be coming, within your household.
Cassandra, thoughts?
What's the question? He was going in. I just was thinking about childhood memories. But he's absolutely right, where it's like everybody knew. But it was a different time, honestly. Like speaking of that, like, people go to General Motors and they work there for 30 years or 40 years. It didn't matter if they liked it or they disliked it. They weren't switching jobs. They weren't, like, that was the plan.
So we shooting these parents bail for not passing the generational wealth down?
Yes.
Well, they didn't do anything to create wealth. Why do we keep talking about generations? They couldn't get the first generation.
They do,
of wealth.
though.
How many of our parents,
but you just said
rub 2 nickels together to make $1?
No, but you can't have it both ways. You just said how they could just work at the General Motors and be fine. It's harder now.
No, yeah, they will be fine in that time period. That was for the.
Well, why didn't they save no money to give it to the next generation and the next generation?
Well, because they thought
happened?
saving money was their pension and the whatever financial plans that they were offered from their job. Because you don't have people walking around telling you how to liquidize or take advantage of different types of life insurances or cash value life insurances. You wasn't listening to that. You wasn't having somebody come in your house talk to you about that, or you weren't you weren't privy to the information of buying homes, and redlining was a huge big thing back then. So you're talking about going around and buying multifamilies and this, that, and that. You weren't doing it. You weren't buying black to block in the 1960s, 70s, and 80s. You were worried about getting your first,
Yeah, but the black community was more successful at those times, considering all of the negative factors and challenges that were
keyword
faced.
The community was more successful. We don't have community right now.
Well, bring it back.
We'll bring it back.
We're going to do a topic about bringing back the community.
Bring it back.
Bring it
back.
Any final thoughts, guys? This was fun, way over time, but we had fun, I think.
What's your thoughts? Why
what
aren't these parents parenting?
Because I'm telling you, we're not holding nobody accountable. We're making excuses for everything. Also, we threw away tradition, which I think is a big thing. I feel like you should be embarrassed if you need to ask your kid for money.
Absolutely.
See, that's the thing about a lot of this stuff, saving, all this stuff. If there was some more cultural pressure on behaving a certain way, saving your money, like just being a responsible individual, I think things would be a lot better. And we're not now there's no rules to nothing. Everybody just do whatever they want. The kids is out here running around. Nobody can tell them nothing. The parents is doing, we bring some rules back. Bring some shame back. Bring some judgment back.
Structure in the household.
But I think it comes from some judgment, and everything's cool now, and it shouldn't be cool. And if you do certain things that ain't cool, you should be embarrassed, and people should make you feel embarrassed about it. But now you can't bully people, and now you can't say nothing. And it's everybody's own truth. Is my truth? Is your truth? Well, then we just in our own little bubbles, and there's no community no more. So that's my thoughts.
Yeah,
what do you guys think?
I mean, my final thought is, you said a lot just now, but be the change that you want to see.
I'm trying.
That's all that we can do. Don't end up being the dad or the uncle or whatever that can't pass down something. Well, you're already kind of in the really good spots to pass something down, but
ain't got no one to pass.
Anybody
Anybody
out
season.
there.
What's
Yes, look, you'll get there.
You'll get there. Crazy. Make it make sense.
I want to be cuffed. These Jones don't want to be cuffed.
You said what?
These Jones don't want to be kept.
Ooh, that is another topic for another day.
They definitely don't. But
what do you mean these joints don't want to be kept?
Y'all don't want to be kept.
I think it's the contrary. A lot of these men are not menning.
I agree.
it's because women are trying to manning.
But yeah, you meet a man that's manning, you don't know what to do with him.
Right.
You don't know how to.
The whole thing is screwy.
The women want to lead now. They don't want to be led.
Yeah.
That's not true.
People like, don't tell me what to do. I thought you wanted a leader. Oh man. All right. Anyway, guys, that's the Ardhi Real Estate
Women are
Podcast.
manning right now.
We ain't doing that, but hey, we're gonna have an episode. We're gonna have an episode about that. But shout out to Kevin, who is a little sick and here producing, changing the camera right on time every time, because I see it on the monitor. I see it up there. Yeah. So this was really fun. Comment. Share the video with one person. Send it to somebody where you think is relevant. Should we bring rules back or no? I don't know. So anyway, that's Ardhi Real Estate Podcast. See you guys later. Thank you.